Hi, everyone. My name is Savannah, and we are recording today, season 2, episode 11. I will be interviewing my supervisor at Boulder County Chafee program, Nicole.
The material and information presented here is provided by Lived Experience Youth and is for general information purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are of those of the guest only and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Youth Move.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Savannah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on here and talking about the program and what you do in Boulder County.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the first question I would like to ask you is what exactly is your role in the Boulder community?
So I supervise the independent living programs with Boulder County Housing and Human Services. And what that means is that I supervise a team of caseworkers that work with 16 to 26-year-olds. That age range has grown over the last few years. And we work with those youth and young adults to help with advocacy and resource navigation in the community. We help with accessing housing resources and finding apartments to rent, as well as acting as mentors in any area related to independent living skills.
Okay, what is the Chafee County program?
So the Chafee program in both Boulder and outside of Boulder County is a federally funded program that was implemented by John Chafee, and the money is federally provided to each state in the country. And in Colorado, the state provides the funding to counties to implement the Chafee program as it works best in their community. So in Boulder, we have a team of currently 5 plus you, 6, Savannah, workers that assist youth, like I said, in that age range of 16 to 26. So the Chafee program works specifically with young people that are either currently in foster care through the county or have emancipated out of foster care from the county's custody.
Oh, okay. So, what does it mean to be a supervisor in your type of position, like in that program?
So in this program, I find it to be a very exciting position. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for helping people navigate resources in our community. For me specifically, when you're supervising, I am a kind of a step back role. So I am assisting the workers more at this point in my time with the county. And so I meet with the workers and talk about their clients and who they're working with at any given time, about what the goals are, what the best way to help the client meet their goals, and what some of the obstacles and challenges are for the young people and the workers to meet the goals of independence and self-sufficiency. The additional piece beyond working with the clients and the workers is making sure that workers have good self-care. In the area of human services and social work specifically, there's oftentimes a big risk of secondary trauma and burnout. I was trying to think of a fancier word for that, but that's just the bottom line, is burnout. And it's really difficult to support and mentor and be a resource to someone if your resource well is dry. So I talk a lot with people about how to make sure that they are taking good self-care so that they can continue to do the hard work and challenging work of navigating system, which is not much easier for professionals than it is for clients.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of this analogy, like, don't pour from your own glass if it's like empty. Make sure your glass is full so you can actually, pour and share what you have already instead of starting with nothing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people that have been in this field for more than 3 to 5 years oftentimes learn that the very hard way. So I try to teach from my experience and hope that people don't have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Can you also explain what the Pathways program is? Because I've been hearing a lot about that.
Yeah, I hope that I can do that justice. The Pathways program has been around for almost 10 years. And it was originally a pilot program that several states participated in. And it was a pilot program to really work to implement a larger curriculum that could be used within the Chafee program. So in Chafee, in Colorado, as I had said, each county is able to create their own programming and create their own annual plan for how they will support young people in their community. And the Pathways program was intended to create a more specific program that would be implemented throughout all of the counties in Colorado. And then the intent is to receive the stamp of approval for it to be used across the country where other states and counties would want to implement the program. So Pathways program is where the worker has a much smaller caseload of young people to support because they're meeting on a weekly basis, whereas other times you might be meeting with someone on a monthly basis or even every other month basis, depending on where the person's plan and goals are. So in Pathways, the purpose is to have much more intensive work and contact, to have a shorter period of time that you are coaching and mentoring that young person. The Pathways program is based on an engaging youth in a coach like way model so that you are coaching the client and not telling or making choices for the individual. You're really walking alongside and being a support and a resource, again, in a coach like way, so that the client is in charge of what their goals are. They're in charge of how they get there. And then the coach helps to hold accountability if it seems like that's not what the actions are demonstrating. And so just reflecting back to the young person if that's still the goal and if that's still the direction that they want to take and receive support in. So that's a very broad overview of the Pathways program. I don't know if you have other specific questions.
No, that just really sounds like a motivator for someone to like make them realize these are your choices, these are your goals, which way are you going to go type thing. So that's really great. I hope all the counties will implement that and also across the nation. Hopefully it takes off.
We just finished up the final phase. I think, really within this next 6 to 9 months, the report will be written and hopefully it will show some really great outcomes. I think that the model does support positive outcomes. And I do think that it allows the young person to really take charge of what their path is and receives the support along the way, and also to really capitalize on being independent from the county system more quickly, but always being able to come back up until the age of 23 for additional support. I just kind of look at those as booster sessions with their coach.
Nice. Thank you for all that info on the Pathways program. I want to also ask, how did you start doing this type of work? Slash, like, how did you begin in this field of working with foster youth in like the unpopulation with the programs?
Yeah. So I've always had more of an interest or a passion in human services. I went to school in my undergraduate time for social work and psychology. And then I went on for my master's degree in counseling. And I had a different path in my mind at that time when I was working towards my master's degree. But then I did my internship with Boulder County. And I think it's a combination of deciding what I didn't want to do that led me towards the idea of what I did want to do. In my time during my internship, I realized that my passion was not quite so much for much younger children. I wanted to work with teens or older adolescents because I really felt that in that time period, they needed someone to hear them, to support them in meetings, and to understand how they played a huge part in their own lives. And I think in human services, I came into this about 24 years ago. I don't think that that was always given. Positive youth development wasn't being used across the board. Youth voice was not being heard or asked for or respected, in my opinion. So, like I said, kind of by process of elimination of where I did not want to be, I found out that I really did enjoy being a voice for. And then as I came into being in the Chafee program role, I knew that it was a voice to support what the youth's voice was saying, just to lend it some strength in a room of professionals where that was not always the case.
Wow. Yeah. Like a lot of youth voice, it gets shut down a lot by like older people in power. And it's sad because we need to invite all people to the table when making decisions and include youth and all ages of all experiences to actually fill in the different policy changes and make sure everyone in the community is okay with that.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, which kind of leads me to my next question. Do you have any suggestions for community members on how to help the unhoused population, such as how can they advocate for change in their own community?
Yeah, the first time I read this question and then listening to you say it, the first thing that comes into my mind is educate around awareness that it's an issue. I think many people go along in their day-to-day life and maybe don't even understand that there's a huge issue around young people being unhoused and without the resources to change that on their own because of age range or what resources are available, or maybe what trauma history is involved. I think that it's really difficult to find what door to open to get to the right resources. And so I think if there's one message I have for any community, including the Boulder County community, is letting people in the community know that, yes, there are people in your community that are unhoused and that are under the age of 18, that are, 18 to 23, that are super vulnerable and do not need charity. They need recognized and they need the right supports to be available to them to change their situation.
Yeah, I agree. It is really hard for youth to find accepting resources out in the community without them being either discriminated against or if they're running away from like a family domestic situation. A lot of the times, the police get involved and then they have to go back with that family if they're under 18. So that's also a struggle.
And I think to build on that education, it would also be that when you are a minor and when you are still a transition age youth, I take that up to the age of 26, and you are struggling, that it is majority not the the issue of that particular person. It's not that, 16-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 19-year-old is typically unhoused because of they forgot to pay the rent or they weren't able to go to work. It's because of someone else that they are typically finding themselves in shelters or on the streets or in places that aren't safe and stable and healthy. So having that bigger awareness and compassion and knowing that the need is there for understanding adults to get involved.
Yeah. So, how do you advocate for youth in the system during hard times in their life? Like if they're in the juvenile center or foster care or some situation like that, how can you advocate the best for them during those times?
I was thinking that that's changed in my years of employment with Boulder County because my role has changed. But then my next thought was really the way that we advocate remains the same, which is getting to know the young person, getting to know their perspectives and what they would like people to hear and to know. And then going into court or into a meeting or into a room with a bunch of professionals where the youth is typically standing alone to help them be heard and to build that relationship with both the young person and the other professionals in the room to work as that facilitator or liaison to be a good partner and advocate in those really difficult times when I think sometimes it's easier for professionals to make a plan and do a plan, even if it has nothing to do with what the youth is saying. So to slow people down and make sure that the youth is really being heard, I think is the best way to help advocate in those really hard times.
Yeah, I agree with all of those answers for sure. It's hard to like know that youth out here are being like forgotten, lost in the sea of populations that need help. But we just need to work together as a community to solve issues one by one, and we'll get there. Thank you for being on this podcast and sharing your wise info and knowledge with our listeners.
Absolutely. Again, thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome.